is a stateless person? You may never have heard of stateless persons, or you may have heard the word without knowing what it meant. But who are stateless persons? And why is it important to talk about them? A stateless person is an individual who does not have a nationality and is not recognized as a citizen by any state. To truly understand what a stateless person is, you have to understand the importance of having a nationality. It may seem trivial, but your nationality is very important. Think about it. Your Canadian nationality, or in other words, your Canadian citizenship, gives you access to services and resources. Being a citizen of Canada guarantees that your fundamental rights are protected under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Your Canadian nationality also gives you access to identity documents such as a valid birth certificate, a social insurance number, a health insurance card, and a passport. These documents confirm your identity and allow you to go to school, access healthcare, find a job, and open a bank account. You also need these documents to get a driver's license, rent an apartment, or leave the country. Without your Canadian citizenship, you wouldn't be able to do any of these things because you wouldn't exist in the eyes of the law. That's what it means to be a stateless person. A stateless person is a person who doesn't have citizenship, even though they were born in the country where they live. In other words, these people don't exist in the eyes of the law. This makes them extremely vulnerable since they don't have documents to confirm their identity. Their basic rights aren't respected and they're excluded from the rest of society. You may wonder how people can have no nationality. In Canada, you simply have to be born here to become a Canadian citizen. Even someone born outside the country but to a Canadian parent can obtain citizenship. So how can someone not have citizenship? Several factors can explain statelessness. The transmission of nationality is very complex and differs from country to country. Here are the main causes of statelessness. First, it can be caused by laws on the transmission of nationality. Nationality is usually transmitted by right of blood, meaning a child acquires their nationality from their parents, or by birth on soil, meaning a child acquires their nationality from the place they were born. In Canada, citizenship can be obtained both ways. However, as countries set their own regulations on the transmission of nationality, this does not apply in every country. For example, in more than a dozen countries, women can transmit their nationality to their children. This means that if the father is foreign, deceased, missing, or unknown, the child may be at risk of becoming stateless. Some countries even remove a woman's nationality if she marries a foreigner. So if these women are unable to acquire their husband's nationality, they become stateless. Another cause of statelessness is the emergence of new countries and changes to borders. The Roma ethnic group is an example of a minority that is stateless due to the emergence of a new country. They live in Macedonia, which used to be part of Yugoslavia before it was disintegrated. Following Macedonia's declaration of independence, the law on citizenship of the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia was introduced in 1992. In short, this law stated that anyone who was not a citizen of the former republic, but who was a legal resident in the territory, could apply for citizenship within the following year. However, many people, including the Roma, didn't apply by the deadline because they didn't have access to the necessary information. This left them stateless. Finally, one of the most common causes of statelessness is persecution based on ethnicity, religion, etc. Many ethnic minorities around the world are stateless because the country they live in won't grant them citizenship, sometimes for generations. This is the case for the Muslim Rohingya in Myanmar, the Karana and Indo-Pakistani minority in Madagascar, and the Kurds in the Middle East, who have all been violently repressed for decades. How can we protect these particularly vulnerable groups? There are 2 international conventions that recognize and guarantee the human rights of stateless persons. First, There is the 1954 Convention relating to the status of stateless persons. The signatory states must recognize the specific status of stateless persons and grant them at least the same rights they grant to foreigners. There is also the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness, signed by 58 countries. Under this convention, signatory states grant nationality to all individuals born on their territory or who have at least one parent with the state's nationality. According to the UN, it should be possible to end statelessness in the world within the next few years. This is why the United Nations Refugee Agency, also called the UNHCR, launched the hashtag #IBelong campaign in 2014. The campaign aimed to end statelessness by 2024 through a 10-point action plan to be implemented by countries.